Welcome back. Well, let's continue with some more of the conversation sparked by the announcements last night. Confirmation from President Cyril Ramaphosa during the State of the Nation address. There'll be an additional procurement of renewable energy in the next few months. Of course, some of this has been pre-planned. You'll remember that we had stage 3 load shedding earlier in the week. Vito Schnabel is the chair of the SA Photovoltaic Industry Association. He knows his way around a solar panel. Vito, good afternoon to you. Do you expect the amount of electricity discussed last night to make much difference to the national grid once it comes online?
Stephen, yes, we're delighted to hear that there is more emphasis on this. Although I must say, we've heard these words for the last 3 years, and it needs to follow action. And that is our biggest concern. Remember that the IRP was gazetted on the 18th of October, 2019. I've counted, it's actually 482 days ago. And still, until today, although we are in an energy crisis, we haven't procured one single kilowatt hour extra of energy to the national grid.
I mean, it's an incredible thing to say. The obvious response from government would be COVID-19, right? But most of this is bureaucratic process. I mean, COVID-19 shouldn't stop it.
No, not at all. That process can happen during COVID, and we've done the risk mitigation procurement process now also. Everything was ready. Remember, there were projects ready since 2014. We had at that stage a expedite round which was cancelled. All these projects were ready to go, so it's no excuse to not take these things up and accelerate them, especially because we want to grow the economy, and for growing the economy you need electricity.
What's the hold-up? What do you believe is holding this up?
Good question. Good question. I wish I knew. Maybe you should ask that to Gwede Mantashe, because that is in his portfolio. I see that we basically have now seen an announcement that round 5 will happen this year, and even round 6. So each of these rounds had 1,000 megawatts of solar and 1,600 megawatts of wind in it. Although I know that in the IRP there is a gap which we still want to taken out, so that we every year have got these procurement rounds. So I see that there is acceleration. I see that there is commitment, but we really need to see action. So that is my biggest request here.
I was wondering if you're going to bring up the name of Gwede Mantashe, the energy minister. I mean, there's some people, I don't know how far you will go on this, but there's some people who blame him for a sort of policy lock on this. He's also the Minister of Mineral Resources. He has a long history in the coal industry as a unionist. I mean, do you think that's part of the problem, or are you going to step back from saying it, Vito?
I will step back because I would like to have a good relationship with Gwede Mantashe. And from that point of view, but remember, Stephen, there's also other opportunities. So these big procurement programs need fiscal support. So government needs to put guarantees behind it, maybe not. That's a question that one needs to actually ask the financial institutions. But there's a big opportunity in the embedded space. You and I can put solar panels on our roofs. The industry is doing that. It has happened already, but it's been limited. So we are limping. And one of the questions we had, and not only us, but now recently, a lot of other industry associations like BUSA, like the Minerals Councils, all of them asked, can we lift the licensing application process from a 1 megawatt to a 50 megawatt size? And even Andre de Ruyter the other day, actually this week, said it in his presentation that he hasn't got the issue with that. We need to get energy to the grid like yesterday. And I think we should pull out all those stops to make sure that we not have load shedding, which we have currently. And as we heard, it will happen for the next 5 years. So whatever energy we can get, put it on.
So, I mean, you're talking, I think there's a technical term, I think it's the maximum self-generation threshold. I'd have to spend some time on Google to make sure I got that right. But if that was moved, I think it's 1 megawatt at the moment, and what we're talking about is a shopping centre generating electricity for itself, and maybe, because it's got so many solar panels in its parking lot, then selling that some of that electricity to the shopping centre next door, right? That's how I understand it. How much of a difference would it make, and how quick would it take, how long would it take to make that difference?
The difference can be made very quickly. We have done research into the industry with the members and others in the industry. Not only us have done that research, and we see that we can easily add between 600 to 1.2 gigawatts of extra capacity within 12 months to the grid, and up to 1.8 gigawatts within the next 18 months. So there is huge appetite for that. I believe it's actually far more. I think we can even add a few gigawatts to it. Maybe we should go smart about it and say, okay, put this in, but also think about storage solutions so that if you've got excess of power, put it into a battery and help us in the evenings or in peak loads to distribute that. What you refer to has to do with wheeling. So if you take an office block or a flat building or something like that, they don't have enough space of solar panels on their roof because it's in the urban areas. So they would like to build a solar farm somewhere else where there's a lot of sunshine and land which is not being used, and then wheel that energy into the load centers like Johannesburg or the big cities in general, or to their premises. So you can use electricity from the one side to the other side. And these things can be achieved very quickly. These agreements, the capability technically is in place. Eskom can handle these kind of things. They handle the grid currently, and the municipalities with their distributed networks. So it's actually technically not a problem. It is from a structuring point, not a problem, but it needs work from, for example, from NERSA to make sure that wheeling over all the networks is sort of in line with what the market needs and is regulated clearly. So currently we've got a wheeling arrangement with Eskom, then you have to go to a next municipality that you connect to, and then the next one and the next one. So it's very difficult and very complex to do. So we wish that this can be done much easier.
At the same time, of course, we need to talk about pricing. Now, as I understand it, the price of solar power has been coming down and down and down and down. And I want to talk specifically about solar panels. Are you expecting that price reduction process to continue?
Yes, it will continue because there's one natural kind of process there. And that is that solar power panels achieve higher efficiencies. And with higher efficiencies, you basically get in the same panel, in the same piece of material, you get the same kind of, or you've got the expenses, the same expenses, but you get more power out of it. And with that, you've got a natural decrease in pricing because you're not really producing so much more. So that's one of the things. But I think there's, because of the scale that we put these projects together, and remember, we are almost increasing by 40% year on year solar PV capacity. This is enormous amounts that in terms of the production and manufacturing happen. And these help to bring down prices, also for structures, also for inverters. So it's not only the panel, but all the other things as well. We've learned a lot over the years, and we are now on a commodity-based pricing level, which is really, it's almost cheaper than a piece of safety glass that you can buy at the glass shop.
Well, one of the problems with that, of course, I mean, it's important progress, and it's going to literally change the way that we live over time. But what it does mean is that there's no incentive to buy a solar panel this year if it's going to be cheaper next year.
Well, I would say if you don't buy this thing today, then rather wait until tomorrow. Sure. I mean, with anything, I mean, we can take the cell phone industry. There's always a newer, better version tomorrow. And you still buy your cell phone because you need it. And I think electricity we need dearly. So there is a need to buy today. What I've seen is that the price curve has flattened off. So we're at the commodity level. So now it's demand and supply. So there's not so much of a major drop. Remember in the years, 10 years ago, those prices were very much also regulated by feed-in tariffs, which we no longer have in the world. So currently it is absolute a commercial decision to do that. If you look at the solar PV production currently and the payback periods of these kind of installations on a shopping mall, for example, they range between 3 to 5 years. the capex repayment. And I mean, that is a very good investment. After that, by the way, the solar plant generates profits because, I mean, this goes to your bottom line and you don't, have any expenses. So I wouldn't wait a second to put a panel on my roof. By the way, I've got that on my roof and I'm really enjoying this sun power, charging my car, my batteries, having my lights, everything. So it is something really to enjoy.
Vido Schnabel, thanks very much indeed. Chair of the SA Photovoltaic Industry Association. Really do appreciate it.